So, what happens when a story just refuses to stay on the page? When action figures become the actors and a whole narrative starts building itself, breaking every rule of time, space, and, well, reality itself? We are about to dive into a world that is truly one of a kind, a world born from art and fiction. This is the articulated dream of the imagined nation. It all kicks off with the figures themselves. Just look at them. They're so dynamic, so expressive, just brimming with potential energy. These aren't just pieces of plastic and paint, They're like little seeds of a story just waiting to sprout. You can almost feel the power coming off this one. And of course, where there's power, there's gotta be action. Every single joint, every limb, it's all crafted to tell a story, capturing this one perfect moment of movement, just frozen in time. And then you get flight. This is the moment where imagination really just takes off, lifting these creations from being simple objects into something more, something that feels, well, alive. And it all comes down to this simple, powerful reaction, that feeling you get when you see something so cool you just think, oh, I want one. That's it. That's the impulse, the spark that built this entire wild world we're about to jump into. So once you have that creative spark, these figures don't just sit on a shelf. No way. They become characters in what the creator calls a waking dream. And this isn't some pre-written script we're talking about. This is a story that literally builds itself as it goes, with the characters often taking the lead and doing things that surprise even the person who made them. And this waking dream, it has a name: the imagined nation. Now, at a glance, it might look a little bit like our world, but trust me, it operates under a completely different and way stranger set of rules. So what is this place, really? Well, the source material describes the imagined nation almost like a piece of tech or even a drug, a synthetic compound that lets you see the world through the creator's eyes. It's like being, and I quote, jacked into the game Matrix. And this is where we see just how bonkers this world is. I mean, a starship from the 24th century just crash lands in a modern-day backyard. You can wake up in 1960 and be in 2017 by the afternoon. One character's hair literally changes color depending on her mood. Book props from a movie suddenly become real things filled with actual data. And yeah, you heard that right. You might have a full-on conversation with your armchair because it's also a character. In the imagination, the word normal just doesn't exist. Of course, a world this chaotic needs some pretty compelling characters to help us make sense of it all. So let's meet some of the key players, the voices that are coming out of this fragmented reality. All right, first up, one of our main narrators. In this quote, it tells you everything you need to know about her. Fierce, hilarious, and definitely not someone you want to mess with. She says, "I threw my new pimp cup from the last station's coffee bar at him and got all up in his face." Yup, you immediately know exactly who you're dealing with here. And then we have this guy, Papillion Day. When he shows up, things get intense fast. His arrival basically signals a huge turning point, the start of this strange and frankly terrifying event that he just calmly calls a black bacchanalia.
So what in the world is a black bacchanalia? Well, it's the main crisis of the story. It's the coming storm that's threatening to rip the already fragile reality of the imagined nation completely apart.
Okay, you might want to brace yourself for this one. It all starts with a hurricane carrying these weird spores that infect all naturally born women. Then, these spores grow into actual mushrooms on their bodies, transforming them into these hyena-like creatures. Then, they get intoxicated, form these feral gangs, and start attacking men. But here's the wildest part. After 5 days of this complete and utter chaos, they wake up with zero memory of anything that happened. It's like a temporary, recurring apocalypse. So how does our friend Papillion Day react to this terrifying, world-ending invasion? He just smirks and says, "Let them in. It'll be like live-action Valhalla." No panic, no fear, just this chilling, almost joyful acceptance of the chaos. Just another Tuesday in the imagination, I guess. So just when you think you're finally starting to get a handle on this world, it throws another massive curveball at you. The narrative itself becomes self-aware. The story knows it's a story. And the characters? They're starting to figure that out too. And here it is, the big reveal. Our narrator suddenly gets it. He's not just himself, he's playing a role. The role of Constable Thaddeus Prime. He realizes he's been jacked into the game Matrix this whole time, that his reality is a construct. He's both the character and the player, living the story from the inside out. This timeline just perfectly captures the absolute chaos of his life. He describes one single dizzying day. He wakes up in the 1960s, has coffee in 1999, takes a phone call that pulls him into 2011, and finally arrives in 2017, only to find a starship from the year 2374 parked in his sister's backyard. Can you even imagine the mental whiplash from that?
And then the story goes even further, blending its own reality with other famous fictional universes. The narrator starts identifying with characters from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Benny Russell and Benjamin Sisko. This just shows that in the imagination, the walls between different stories just don't exist. All fiction is real, and it's all connected.
And this question right here really gets to the heart of it. I mean, when your reality involves time travel, talking furniture, and Star Trek crossovers, how do you even begin to explain that to the outside world? To the cops? The story asks this really crucial question. What happens when a private dream crashes head-on into public, everyday reality?
And that brings us to the ultimate question at the core of the imagined nation. When a story builds itself, when its characters become aware of what they are, and when fiction starts bleeding into reality, who's really in control? The author, the characters, or the story itself? That's the dream we're left to figure out.